Enough and Evolving podcast. I'm your host, Tyona Vallejo, Master Certified Life Coach and Mindfulness Expert, helping you reclaim confidence, break through unhelpful patterns, and manifest the relationships and life you desire. Now let's get started. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking all about worthiness and the truth about it that most of us were never taught. Because the truth is, you were never meant to prove your worth. You were meant to remember it. And somewhere along the line, many of us learned our worth depended on things like how productive we are, how successful we become, how others perceive us, and how we perform in our roles as women, mothers, partners, or professionals. But the belief creates a constant pressure to earn something that was never missing. And when we live from that place, it often shows up as overthinking, overworking, people-pleasing, and constantly questioning ourselves. So in this episode, I want to talk about what worthiness actually is, why so many high-achieving women struggle with it, how childhood conditioning shapes our worthiness beliefs, and how you can begin to reconnect with the truth of your inherent worth. So let's get started. So we're talking about worthiness, and I love it because I think there's so many misconceptions that we pick up along the way about worthiness. And it's something that sits underneath almost every struggle that we experience. And worthiness is one of those things that we think we understand logically, right? But many of us are actually living with a completely distorted idea of what it really means. So today, I wanted to share the truth about worthiness that you may have missed. And that truth is, number one, you are 100% worthy and whole. Nothing can change that. Nothing can add or subtract from that. If you get one thing from today's podcast, I really want you to receive that you are 100% worthy. You were put on this planet for a reason. And the reason is that you exist. And that existence is 100% whole and worthy, regardless of where you come from, who you are, what you've done in your life, or what you haven't yet. So please hear that. And what most of us have learned from the outside world about worthiness is really different. So let's look at what unworthiness can sound like in our minds. So we kind of start to tap into what is the actual experience of feeling worthy and not feeling worthy. And in our minds, worthiness can sound a lot like, what if this is as good as it gets? I often hear that question, and underneath that question is really a doubt in your own worth. And then maybe there's something wrong with me, right? When we believe that there's intrinsically something wrong with us, there's inconsistency with our belief in our own worth. And then there's, if I don't do this, what will they think of me? Underneath that, people pleasing is really this disconnection from your own worth. And from these places, we begin to overthink, overanalyze, and overwork. We try to prove something. We try to earn something. But when we're stuck in this cycle, our nervous system is usually in stress mode. So we experience anxiety, we experience a lot of tension, we get into ruminating thoughts, which is why regulating the nervous system can be so important. Because when the mind is hijacked by stress, it becomes almost impossible to access that deeper truth of who we are. It becomes hard to really feel into our own worthiness because our mind has created a story that hijacks us into a stress mode, a stress response, and in our bodies, we're feeling like we're in fight, flight, or freeze. It's really helpful for you to become aware of when you're in unworthiness versus when you are in your feeling of worthiness. And right now, we're just talking about being in the mindset and the feeling of worthiness. Now, remember, this does not change the actual truth of you being worthy. When we truly connect with our worthiness, the feeling in the body is very different. It feels relaxed. You feel open. You feel maybe integrated. You feel expansive and light. There's a spaciousness in your body. You feel very grounded and at ease. You're not in that stress mode, that stressful feeling of you're not feeling like enough, right? And now here's an example. Think about maybe a child that you love. Maybe it's your child. Maybe it's a family member, or maybe even think of your younger self, right? When you connect with the knowing that your child, this child is 100% worthy, just as they are, when you really think about them and you know that they are 100% worthy, what happens in your body? Just sit and imagine that child in front of you and you saying to them, you are 100% worthy. You know you're going to believe it, right? Because that's your child, that's your loved one, that's someone you really value, right? And notice what happens in your body. Does your heart expand? Do you soften? That feeling of love, openness, and acceptance, this energy is of true worthiness. This is of that feeling. And the body will always mirror the mind. So whatever it is that you are believing about yourself, if you're in your belief in worthiness, you will start to feel it more in your body. And vice versa. If you're not in the mindset of worthiness, then of course you're going to feel that effect in your body. Now let's look at the proving pattern. When we disconnect from our worthiness, we often try to prove it instead. And this shows up in a lot of ways. Like I mentioned earlier, it can show up in overworking, which can then look like burnout and constant productivity. Many high achievers unknowingly attach achievement to worthiness. And so they believe that if I accomplish more, then I'll finally be worthy. And you get into this success rat race. I think many of us can raise our hands and agree that we've all been there at one time or another. But what really happens is that proving becomes a coping mechanism, and the body often carries the cost. It carries it in chronic tension, headaches, backaches, maybe tendinitis, constant stress, because the nervous system is stuck trying to maintain an identity that says, I need to prove that I'm enough. So maybe you're getting an idea what it can look like to be in your unworthiness, to experience unworthiness in your mind and your body. So how do we start to step into this idea of worthiness? How do we really feel it? Just not even conceptually, but also within every part of us. And one of the things I believe that is kind of another misconception about worthiness is that in claiming that we are worthy, I think that we get afraid that we're claiming that we are better than others. But that's not what's happening at all. This is not about being superior. Maybe some of you have even experienced situations where you're feeling bold and you're thinking about stepping into your worth or owning your worth, and then this little thought comes in, but who am I to be doing this thing? And that is, number one, that's fear. Number two, I believe that's that question of your ego. Like, who am I? Who am I to do this? Am I more superior than someone else? And that is not at all what worthiness is about. When we're asking ourselves that question, the fear is stepping into greatness because you don't want to appear arrogant or superior. And here's the truth. Owning your worth is not believing you are greater than others. It's recognizing that everyone is inherently worthy. This is a shared humanity thing, 100% worthiness. No matter who we're talking about, it is my belief that God, the universe, our creator, has created everyone equally, and that our equal essence is our complete worthiness. Now, the challenge is learning to separate our true essence from the conditioning we've absorbed about ourselves. So let's take a look at where worthiness conditioning begins. Now, most of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that love and approval were conditional. For example, let's take a child that gets caught coloring on the wall, and maybe she's asked, "Did you do this?" And she says, no, I didn't do that, because she's already feeling like her parent is reacting from a place of anger. And so she starts to clam up, get scared. And then the parent, of course, scolds her and shames her for lying and for coloring on the wall, misbehaving. So maybe the parent tells her, "Now you do not deserve to play with your toys after lying and misbehaving. So go to your room," or whatever. And what that child learns is that being good equals worthiness. Being bad equals unworthiness. But the truth is, good and bad are subjective constructs. Her behavior may have needed correction, but her worthiness was never actually in question. Let me repeat that one more time for all y'all in the back. If there is something you have done, your worthiness was never actually in question in that thing that you feel like is questionable that you have done in your past, maybe, or a situation that you're feeling you maybe have a hard time at forgiving yourself about. Your worthiness is never in question when it comes to this particular subject. So just remember that. Now, what worthiness is absolutely not is worthiness has nothing to do with your weight, your bank account, your career, your children, your appearance, your success, your failures. Whatever you have or don't have, worthiness has nothing to do with it. Your worthiness is not determined by what happened to you, what you have accomplished or not accomplished, or what anyone else even thinks about you. Worthiness has nothing to do with any of that. You simply are worthy. It just is. And this is so important. Your feelings about worthiness are not the same thing as the truth of your worth. Feelings come from the belief and the thoughts you're holding about yourself. But the truth of your worthiness is unchangeable. No circumstance can alter it. Nothing from your past can diminish it. So I hope you really hear me on that and start to really own your worthiness. Now that I've shared that your worthiness just exists regardless, and your experience of your worthiness comes from your mind and your body, that is two separate things. Let's start to talk about how to begin to reclaim that feeling of worthiness. If you want to feel more connected to your worthiness, there are two places to start: the mind and the body. First, begin noticing the thoughts that are blocking you from feeling worthiness. Those are the narratives that we kind of touched on earlier. I'm not enough. I should be further along. There must be something wrong with me. Once you recognize them, you can begin rescripting these thoughts. You can even just simply pause and go, those are those sentences that have been on repeat in my mind for neons, probably. Those are those words that have been playing in the background that I haven't been paying attention to, but they aren't necessarily true. I'm hearing them now, and I get to choose what I believe about them. Once you see that and rescript them, then the second is to work with the body. Because worthiness isn't just an intellectual concept, it's something we feel. This is where the nervous system regulation and somatic healing practices can really be incredibly powerful here. One of my favorite techniques is using tapping. So it's kind of that connectiveness of the mind and the body to really integrate more of the feeling of worthiness. Feeling into greater worthiness is one of the core things that I help my clients with inside my one-on-one coaching. We start by uncovering the conditioning that has kept them feeling unworthy. And then once we can see those patterns, they come to the surface, then they realize that they were never broken to begin with. From there, we can begin to unwind some of the self-talk that's been keeping them stuck. And we work on helping them get into their body, feeling safe in their worthiness. And when that all shifts, everything begins to change. They start trusting themselves more. They let go of guilt that used to control their decisions. They speak up in relationships. They stop abandoning themselves. And the simple but profound shift is they begin to see themselves as worthy and experience their own worth. And when you see yourself as worthy, you start showing up differently in your life, which naturally leads to better relationships, more opportunities, and a deeper sense of confidence. Now, as we begin to wrap up this episode, there are 5 things I would love for you to remember. One is your challenges are not a reflection of your worthiness. Number 2, your worth is whole and indestructible. Number 3, the value you offer the world is separate from your worth. You don't earn worthiness through your achievements. Number 4, claiming your worth isn't egotistical. It's recognizing our shared human wholeness. And 5, healing worthiness wounds requires awareness of both your mind and your body's experience. Now, if this episode resonated with you, and you know that worthiness has been something that quietly shapes your decisions, your relationships, or how you've been showing up in your life, this is the exact work I help women move through in my one-on-one coaching program. Together, we uncover the patterns that keep you stuck in self-doubt and help you reconnect with confidence and greater self-trust. You can find the link in the show notes. Until next time, don't forget, you were never meant to prove your worth. You were meant to remember it. See you next week.